Let's look at multiplying by 10, 100, and 1000. First, we'll look at multiplying by 10. This example, we've got 3 times 10. 3 multiplied by 10 is the same as having 3 groups of 10, or 3 tens. With materials, we can show it like this: 1 10, 2 tens, 3 tens. We know that multiplication is repeated addition, so we could show it like this as well: 10 plus 10 plus 10. 3 lots of 10. And our answer is 10, 20, 30. 3 with a 0 on the end. So 10 times 3 is 30. Let's look at the second one. 4 times 10. So 4 times 10 is 4 tens. And 4 tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, is 40. 4 with a 0. Can you start to see a pattern happening? Let's look at the last one. 7 times 10. 7 times 10 is 7 lots of 10, 7 tens, which is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. 7 with a 0 at the end. So our pattern that we should see is that when we're multiplying by 10, we keep the original number and add a 0. Keep the original number and add a 0. So I'll write that down: times, when we're multiplying by 10, times 10, add a 0. Right, let's look at multiplying by 100 now. In our first example, we've got 3 times 100. Well, that's like saying 3 hundreds. So 3 hundreds. And what's 3 hundreds? Well, 3 hundreds is 100, 200, 300, which is 3 with 2 zeros. Another way we can show this or work this out is we have a look back at our multiplication, and specifically at this 100. And we think, what do we know about 100? Well, 100 is the same as 10 times 10. 10 tens. So if we got 3 times 10 times 10, or we do this first, 3 times 10, and then multiply that by 10, then that's the same as saying 3 times 100. We've just broken it into smaller bits. So if we go ahead and work out 3 times 10, using what we know now about multiplying by 10 and adding a 0, well, 3 times 10 is 30, and then 30 times 10, once again, we're using what we know about multiplying by 10, adding a 0. We'll keep the same number and add a 0 to the end. This 0 here. So this way here shows you how we can break up that 100 and use what we know about multiplying by 10 to multiply by 100. Let's look at another example of multiplying by 100. Let's look at 6 times 100. Okay, 6 times 100, 6 hundredths. 6 hundredths, which is 6 with 2 zeros at the end. So you can start noticing a pattern when we multiply by 100. When we're multiplying by 100, we simply keep the original number and add 2 zeros. Keep the original number and add 2 zeros. Okay, so now we've kind of got a rule or a little trick for multiplying by 10 and a little trick for multiplying by 100. As long as we understand why, then we can just remember those rules and things become super easy and quick. Now we'll look at multiplying by 1000. I think you can already guess what our little trick's going to be. Let's have a look. So 3 times 1,000 is saying 3 groups of 1,000, 3 thousands. And let's look at repeated addition again. So 1,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000. And what's that? Well, 3 lots of 1,000 is 3,000. 3 with, that's right, 3 zeros at the end. One more. 5 times 1,000. 5 times 1,000, well, that's 5 thousands. And 5,000. 5 with 3 zeros at the end. So our pattern we can start to see is that when we multiply by 1,000, we keep the original number and we add 3 zeros to the end. I'll show you something else when multiplying by 1,000. So let's take a new one. So 6 times 1,000. Another way we can think of this is breaking down that 1,000. So we know that 1,000 is 10 times 10 times 10. So if we break it up like that, and we say, well, 6 times 10, and we multiply that by 10, and then we multiply that by 10, it's the same as saying 6 times 1,000. They're equivalent. So let's do it that way. 6 times 10. 6 times 10 is 60. We know because we're multiplying by 10. It's going to be 10 times bigger. 6 times 10 is 60. So we've got now 60 multiplied by 10. And then we'll multiply that by 10. So 60 multiplied by 10 is 600. We're using what we know about multiplying by 10. We keep the original number and add a 0. 600, and then we bring down this 10. So 600 times 10. Again, we use what we know about multiplying by 10. We keep the original number and we add a 0. So 600 and another 0, so we've got 6,000. So that's another way we can think about solving problems involving multiplication problems involving many zeros. We break up that number into tens or hundreds and think about it that way. Right. So I hope you've learned a few tricks about how we can multiply by 10, 100, and 1,000.